Good day, everyone. My name is Yoshi Hondo, and I'm here to present our paper about the effects of the global pandemic on the human resources and survivability of selected air freight companies. The pandemic of COVID-19 has brought dire challenges to the region, slowed down the development of the economy, and had an unprecedented and inevitable impact on logistics and air freight industry that connects various economic activities. When the virus struck, the whole world turned upside down. Travel restrictions, border closures, and quarantine protocols have become common scenarios, and this drastic change has dramatically impacted the aviation industry. The major air freight operations in Metro Manila were spared by the pandemic and have caused the complete cancellations of flights that hurt the capacity of the air freight companies that rely heavily on passenger flights to carry their cargo. For the statement of the problem, the researchers aim to determine the following questions. For question number one, the demographic profile of the participants in terms of the following: civil status and length of service. So for question number two, what are the effects of the pandemic on the human resource management functions in the air freight companies in terms of procurement, training and development, employer and employee relation, and creating a safe working environment. And for SOP number three, what are the implemented solutions for company survivability in response to the global pandemic of the human resources and field managers of the air freight companies? And for SOP number four, our last SOP, what recommendations can be suggested to the air freight companies for survivability for the next normal? For our research method, the research design used in this study is a mixed method, wherein it combines both quantitative and qualitative research designs that focus on generating ideas and outcomes. The research methods employed are survey questionnaires and key informant interviews, encompassing both a quantitative and qualitative approach. For our research design, the researchers use an exploratory research design. This design is the most applicable as it enables the researchers to explore the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and provide contingency plans, particularly in the realm of human resource management, with the data anchored to the conceptual framework and focus on purposive samplings. The researchers will be able to support the framework or potentially generate new ideas based on responses from the survey questionnaires and key informant interviews. For our research respondents, the respondents in the study are the human resource managers, operations managers, and regular employees who are directly involved in the day-to-day operations of air freight companies. And for our research local is at Pasay and Parañaque since it's the main gateway of the Philippines and it is the location where majority of air freight companies are located in. So for our theoretical framework, we have used Becker's human capital theory. The human capital theory discusses about the relationship between human labor and production. This theory focuses on increasing productivity and efficiency through a greater focus in education, training, and compensation. This means that leaders and businesses must not only invest in their machinery or their fleets, but also in their people. The main aim of this theory is to prioritize your employees to be successful in human resource management. Since the onset of the pandemic, all public transportations were halted, grounding essential personnel going to and from their work sites. That had a big impact on the employees' productivity and have been grounds for a lessened employee turnout. Becker's human capital theory helped the researchers to have an extensive outlook, especially with managing human resources. This theory also determined the effects of the pandemic on the human resources and the survivability of selected air freight companies. So for our conceptual framework, as you can see, it's a convergent parallel design. So we're going to get the quantitative data and the qualitative data and combine them and to have a thematic analysis on the data gathered. And after having an in-depth thematic analysis and descriptive statistics, we're going to come up with the recommendations for survivability in terms of human resource management. And also to provide a business continuity plan model and a contingency plan model template as a research output of this study. So for our results, after conducting thematic analysis and finding out the most common themes between all of our quantitative data and our qualitative data, we have compiled it into these two tables. As you can see, there's a quantitative table on our left and qualitative table on the right. So we arrange these themes that have direct relationship between each other. So for our quantitative data, we found out that companies have provided or procured necessary equipments. And this is direct relationship between what we found out with our qualitative data gathering, which is the companies have reorganized their businesses, and it just shows how the companies have done a good job which they provide the necessary equipments to remain operational during the pandemic. And for our quantitative data, we found out that most companies have provided training targeting productivity or mental health. It's also a direct relationship between the main challenge of companies. We found out that the main challenge of these companies are manpower, both internal and external, and which resulted in a decline of in productivity. So in our quantitative data, we've also found out that companies have limited career advancement opportunities. So during the pandemic, there's no career advancement opportunities. It is a direct result of the cost-cutting strategy being implemented by majority of the companies. And we've also found out that there's a flexible work arrangement and less strict policies being implemented, which is a result of the adaptive strategy being implemented by companies. So as you can see, the quantitative and qualitative data have a direct relationship with each other. And for our last team, we found out that companies have created a safe working environment for their employees, which employees felt safe working. Since for our qualitative data, we found out that they have implemented the health protocols and government regulations to remain operational during the time of the pandemic.
So for our conclusion, for the demographic profile, the effects of the pandemic do not vary significantly based on whether employees are single or married or on their work experience in the company. And for procurement, the COVID-19 pandemic had minimal to no effect. For training and development, during the pandemic, the employees were monitored by the companies much more to measure their performance despite lacking career advancement opportunities. For employer-employee relation, employers prioritized the health and safety of their employees during the pandemic, while requests for additional time off or leave were uncommon due to minimal restrictions on working hours. And for creation of a safe working environment, air freight companies have complied with the minimum safety requirements and ensured that the employees have the highest chance of avoiding and preventing unwanted diseases and accidents. And for implemented solutions for company survivability, we've concluded that the implementation of this solution enabled air freight companies to survive the pandemic. These strategies help mitigate the immediate impact of the crisis, ensure operational continuity, and position companies for future growth and recovery as the global economy gradually rebounds. And for recommended solutions for survivability in the new normal, the pandemic has accelerated the adoption of digital technology and necessitated cost-cutting strategies. However, companies can sustain efficiency and resilience by continuing to invest in automation while prioritizing employee well-being and safety. Striking a balance between technological advancement and a supportive working environment will foster growth and enable long-term success in the next normal. After a thorough analysis of the data, the following recommendations are made. For the demographic profile, a business continuity plan with consideration to their sample cluster or to their demographics. And for procurement, it is the automation of processes in order to help the company reduce its reliance on manpower. And for training and development, it is the implementation of digitalization and process mainstreaming due to the fact that the world is slowly shifting to a more digitalized process, just like with the Bureau of Customs. And for employer-employee relations, it is an employee health contingency plan for everyone, for all employees. And to create a safe working environment, it is allotment of an emergency fund or a contingency fund. And for the implemented solutions for company survivability, it is to conduct thorough review of their implemented solutions or strategies that can still be applicable for their post-pandemic operations. And for the recommendation solutions for survivability in the new normal, it is the creation of a contingency plan in connection with all the strategies and recommendations the researchers recommend in this study. So for our output, we've created a continuity plan framework. So before we start with our continuity plan, we recommend companies to have an allotment of emergency fund and employee health contingency plan beforehand. So for our continuity plan, the first step is to identify the event and to assess the level of impact of this event and understand the risk of this event and the impact of this event to the operations, and to have an adaptive strategy based on the current needs of this of the operations based on the demographics as well. And after that is the allocation of resources to allocate the required resources for the company's survivability. So after allocating the required resources, the next part is communication. To communicate to all employees about the strategy and plans being implemented and to notify them. Regardless of their hierarchy, they need to be notified. So after this is testing to create a test plan or strategy that take note of the results and develop a more suitable strategy or plan to be applied for the company to remain operational. So after testing and dropping down notes, the things that needs to be improved upon, it is the implementation of the plan after thorough testing and ensuring that it caters to the needs of the company. So for our final output, we've also created a business contingency plan framework. It's almost the same with a continuity plan. The main difference is a continuity plan is for an unforeseen event, while a contingency plan is for a specific event. So for the first step is to review previous strategies and to analyze if they're still applicable up to this day. And after that is to analyze the risk and mitigate them. Identify the risk that may pose a significant threat in operations. After identifying, analyzing, it is to come up with a preliminary response plan to this risk and threats. After coming up with a preliminary response plan is testing and monitoring and taking notes of the things that needs to be improved upon. And after this is to implement them and update the contingency plan with the revised response plan. So that concludes our presentation. On behalf of Mr. Acuyado, Mr. Franco, Mr. Datolaita, and Mr. Espiritu, my name is Yoshi Huntilla Hondo. Thanks and God bless.